has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paul A. Spiegel.
Thank you. We're going to try and do this quickly, and I'm kind of winging it because the idea for this talk came to me, as things do at Bill, just a few days ago. Still, this is intriguing. Those of you who know me, and there are quite a few of you in here, know that in addition to being an attorney, I have for 7 years followed a course of Amazonian shamanism involving, among other things, ceremonies with ayahuasca. Have any of you heard of ayahuasca before? Yeah, pretty much everybody. How many of you actually used ayahuasca? Okay, one. That's different. Ayahuasca is a visionary medicine, a plant medicine that comes from the Amazon, has been used for thousands of years by people, not just for visionary experiences, but for healing. And one of the things that you learn when you follow a course of ayahuasca shamanism is not just that there are spirits in plants, but that you can talk to these spirits, that you can find them, that you can ask for their help and often get very beneficial results from this. This is not something that sits well with the Western medical mind, and I have, classic education, Harvard, Berkeley, etc. Everybody says, why are you doing this? Well, I don't know. It's better than intensive therapy, I suppose. So for 7 years, 35 ayahuasca and Sanango ceremonies, I've been following this path, and it's been very good to me. It never occurred to me, though, that it might have any bearing on Western medicine until sometime last summer when I was diagnosed with late-stage metastatic prostate cancer, inoperable. And my doctors said, well, you're going to have to go through a course of hormones and radiation and chemotherapy. And, excuse me, I was going to set myself a timer and I didn't, so now we got something going here. Thank you. So anyway, it was like, okay, screw the shamanism. I got more important things to do, and I set out on a path to deal with this in the way that the Western doctors were telling me should be done. That involved, as I said, hormones, serious stuff, radiation, we all know about, and chemotherapy. There are hundreds of kinds of chemotherapy in this country, and many others in the world which we don't allow. But the one that they gave me was something called docetaxel, which is in the Taxol group. It's derived from a tree. It's plant medicine. It's a Northwest Pacific yew tree, and I looked at this and I thought, all right, this is a plant medicine. I know what to do with this, and I mentioned it to my doctors, and they shrugged, said, well, anything you want to do in the back of your own mind, buddy, is fine by us. Just keep going with the treatment. So I did what they taught me to do in the jungle. And I went and I found the spirit of this plant medicine. She was sort of a very vaguely tree-like figure, resembled more the structure of the human nervous system, I think, made out of wood. And I walked up to her, I said, I need your help. And she just looked at me. She said, you see me? And I said, yes, I see you. She said, nobody sees me. Nobody wants to see me. No, they're scared of me. They don't want to know me. I said, well, I'm not scared. I want to know you. I need your help. Can we talk? And we proceeded to open up a dialogue. Now, I'm assuming for a moment that none of you are going to jump up and argue with me that this was all in my head and none of it was real. I can promise you after 35 ayahuasca ceremonies that what is real, and if you don't believe that what I see is real, well, the gist of it is that the chemotherapy that they were giving me was fairly toxic. Lots of people have really hard times with it. I didn't. And I believe that this had to do with the fact that I had developed a relationship with this plant spirit who described herself as Mama Taxa, and we had an ongoing thing. She said, look, I get angry sometimes because I'm working so hard for people that don't even acknowledge my existence. They don't want to know who I am. I said, you're different. We'll see what we can do. And I said, okay, that's just wonderful. I want you to just be as nasty as you can to my illness and leave the rest of me alone. You can do that. And indeed, statistically, going back to Western medicine for a moment, about 30% of the people who get this treatment do pretty well. I don't mean just in terms of eliminating their disease or putting it into remission, but just in terms of not lying awake in bed in the middle of the night, retching their guts out or screaming in pain or losing their fingernails. They gave me a list of side effects like a mile long, and I experienced very few of these. I went to my oncologist and said, well, it wasn't all that easy. He said, are you nuts? People die from this treatment. I said, oh. Now you tell me. He said it was in the fine print. I didn't read. Okay. But I really believe that we need to look closer, because we've got our Western doctors out there prescribing us all kinds of plant-derived medications. Aspirin is the obvious one. It comes from willow bark. And dozens and dozens of others, and nobody is paying attention to, if you will, the secondary, possibly even the primary function of these plant-based medicines. We just say, oh, it's in a powder. It's not, it's not traditional medicine. It has nothing to do with healers. It has nothing to do with spirits. What I can tell you after 9 months is that my doctor has described to me as doing phenomenally well. This is not a guy who exaggerates these sorts of things. A nurse practitioner who read my file for the first time said, there's a lot of exclamation points in here. And I don't think these exclamation points are there because they're expecting me to drop dead anytime soon. If I do, could you carry me off the stage that way? But really, this is not what's happening. So what I'm researching right now, and this is really very preliminary, is the idea that there are Western medicines that have a traditional shamanic, spiritual root to them, and you can improve the efficacy of them. You can, I believe you can, it's my hypothesis, you can improve their efficacy, you can improve their toxicity by seeking out those aspects of them which Western medicine won't acknowledge, but which is fundamentally a part of the medicine they're giving you. Every doctor knows that aspirin comes from a willow tree. They know that Valium comes from valerian root, but they think that their version is somehow different, and what they seem to be doing is isolating their chemicals and their scientific bits of it and completely pushing out whatever else might be there. I can tell you from personal experience that this is not the case. I had, and I still have, an ongoing relationship with the plant spirit behind the chemotherapy that was given to me by my Western doctors. And it's a serious relationship. In fact, you find when you do shamanic medicine that there are prices to be exacted by the spirits for their assistance. And one of the things that Mama Taxa, the spirit, asked of me was that she said she wanted an exclusive relationship. And I'd been grumbling to her because I didn't have any women in my life. And she said, nope, you do. Here I am. But it's got to be monogamous. There's not going to be anybody else. You got that? I said, yeah, I got it. That's fine. It was an intriguing demand from something that my doctors saw as being dripped into my veins from a plastic bag over the course of an hour and a half. But there is this nexus. And somebody asked me about a month or two ago, I said, so which is more important, your Western medicine or your shamanic medicine? And I started thinking about it, and I realized that there is no distinction. And that is the purpose of this talk. It's the title of the talk. There is a nexus here. The Western medicine that they gave me had a fundamental spiritual aspect to it that was being completely ignored. And we need to look into this. You'll probably hear more from me on this. Am I doing okay on time here? Good. Any questions? Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Western medicine and a lot of what builders do is based on the scientific method.
Yes.
And I mean, what you're saying is that you had a very personal experience, very spiritual experience. And how could the scientific method or scientific-minded people catch that?
It's difficult. The whole point is that the scientific-minded people are ignoring something. There's the old line from Shakespeare about more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in their philosophy. But I'm scientific-minded too. I'm not just some flake here who walked in one day. I mean, I'm a general counsel for a biotech company. Okay, you got me on this one. There is only a certainty in my mind that there's more to it than the scientists are seeing, and they're not scientists if they won't look for more than they know. That's what scientists do. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's a tough one. But, okay, I promised Barbara that I'd get it at some point. But, yes. Oh, Judy, I'm sorry. My mistake. We'll get to this. It's an interesting question. Yes.
saying that she only wanted you to take one drug? Or did she mean that she only wanted to be that she wanted to be the only drug that was causing it?
A little of both. When you follow, excuse me, I anticipated your question before the last line. Yes and no. There was no sex involved per se. It was all about energy. This is a very common thing when you follow a course of ayahuasca or any of a number of different similar drugs. You're told you're not supposed to eat certain things, you're not supposed to do certain things, and abstinence is one of them. So I wasn't surprised. I just wasn't sure what this particular spirit's terms and conditions were going to be. And that was one of them. I thought, okay, fine. If this is what it takes to save my life, I'm on. Let's go. So that's basically it. Andre.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this more. I wonder if the placebo effect can be accessed through spiritual belief and manifestation. Like, it's so powerful. There's been so much showing that just giving people, a sugar pill that they believe is medicine is capable of doing amazing things. And likewise for the nocebo effect, that if you believe, then you can lose, health over a sugar pill. So I think it's interesting to explore whether there is something that could be like scientifically manifested in terms of people taking these medicines and like accessing the whatever they're taking and its spirit and seeing how they can treat their illness based on that in conjunction with the belief.
The placebo effect is an interesting one because we use it to basically describe a situation that we can't otherwise explain. It's got to be your mind doing this job. My proposition still holds that there may be more to it than that, and that we're just not looking for it. The shamans do their thing, and they don't necessarily go in for Western medicine, unless one of them, needs a heart transplant, which they don't do. But they see their medicine, we see our medicine. What we are not really looking at right now is the idea that the two may come together, and I've found, at least in my experience with one plant medicine, that they really do. And it's just that the Western guys don't see it as a plant medicine. They see it as something mixed up in a lab, but it's derived from a tree. And the shamanist who sees this says, okay, I know this. I know what to do. All I know is it worked for me, and I'd like to see more thought given to the idea that it might work for a lot of people. Yes. Well, either, both, whatever. Yeah, I know we're running short.
Do you have any recommendations for the people who, they're sick and they're scared and their doctor is saying, well, chemo and then these other things to counteract the negative effects of the chemo, et cetera, and then you have shamanistic practice, which is saying, well, why don't we come to Mexico and I'll do a ceremony and this will make you feel better. People are not going to know. I think it's difficult for people to make calm decisions when they're facing scary choices. So, what do they do when their medical doctors are saying we need to do this now, and they have an option to go to a ceremony somewhere and not take some of these carcinogenic cancer drugs?
Ideally, by the way, you're doing a great job of speaking with that microphone. Congratulations. I'm just honoring you on that one. But assuming this is going to go through video or something, I might as well go through the amplified thing. Good job there, though. The first thing is not to be afraid. The one thing you do learn in shamanism is that you only progress by confronting your fears, and that was one of the first things that I came along. I mean, I'm talking a very grim prognosis when I first started this. Nobody even wanted to tell me how grim it was, except that my radiologist, who's one of my best friends, I was staying with him, had breakfast with him this morning, he confided in me a few months ago. He said, when I first got your scans back, I didn't think you were going to make it. He says, now I think you are. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. But, in a shamanic context, we only progress by confronting our fears. And that is the very first thing. That doesn't take an ayahuasca ceremony or 2 or 5 or 100 to get you there. You just have to realize that fear generally doesn't do much good to anybody. Fear and anger are two emotions that really are a waste of time and energy and spirit. Once you have acknowledged that you have a situation, being afraid of it does not get you anywhere. You got a job to do. And I have found many times over in my life, not just me, but plenty of other people, that when you are diagnosed with cancer, you have really two choices. You either stand up and you fight, or you lie down and you die. And most of us in this longevity-based community here do not see lying down and dying as a good option. As far as what you do if you find you have cancer, I don't think it necessarily takes trips to Mexico, as you put it, or to Peru or whatever. You can find people to give you this kind of guidance here. Unfortunately, ayahuasca ceremonies are not lawful in the United States, but it doesn't necessarily take ayahuasca to do this. You need somebody who amounts to a spiritual therapist, if you will, to sit you down and say, first off, don't be afraid. By the way, that's what God says in the Bible more than anything else. If you ever think of it, the first thing he says to Abraham when he's burning like a bush is, don't be afraid. Adam and Eve got the same line. I don't know. God seems to think that not being afraid is a good thing. So do a lot of the rest of us. But I think that's about what it is. So I'll have to think about this some more. We got one more back there, and then we can go? Yes. I'll answer short.
What
Yes,
would
sir.
you recommend to somebody in your situation that wants to follow your path?
Get started early. I'm serious. A shamanic path is an interesting one. It does not require a lifetime of commitment. I've been taking a trip to Peru once a year for 7 years. It takes me a week, 10 days, something like that. Shamanism also comes in all shapes and sizes. The one I know involves ayahuasca and the Amazon. But the interesting thing about shamanism is that it's pervasive in the world. You see similar philosophies in the Inuit shamans, for example, all the way up in the northern part of the globe. And they see the spirits and the spirit world and spirit healing very similarly to people living in the Amazon jungle where it's 100 degrees warmer. I'd get started early, do a little research. The lodge that I go to in Peru near Iquitos is called Blue Morpho, or Blue Morpho Lodge, founded by, you know the place? Yes, exactly. It's founded by Hamilton Souther, and they're online at www.bluemorphotours.com. I'm happy to convey any further information to anybody that needs it, and I'm very much aware that we're out of time. Anybody wants to talk to me any more about this, I'm happy to speak to you about it in person. Send me a text, an email, Facebook, carrier pigeons, or contact me on the Spirit plane, and we'll talk there.
Paul Spiegel.